From Cali to Tally, it's time to wake up. WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source, and this is Wake Up War Chant. Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hudjavandi and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What up, everybody? Showtime. It's Wake Up War Chant. This will possibly be the final show of the week. We'll keep you posted on our Twitter. That's at Wake Up War Chant, all one word. By the way, Corey, we gained 5 new followers on Twitter after I said it on the show yesterday, despite yesterday's show being a little bit lacking. Did you see your follower count go up at all?
I did not look. I haven't looked yet. I don't really keep track of my Twitter follower counts, but I assume I gained a couple hundred.
Sure, whatever.
Just what I do kind of every day.
You live and die on your follower number. You spend hours finding
out.
Right
now we're at, let's see, we're at 22,114. Yeah. So tomorrow, if you ask me, if we do a show tomorrow, ask me again, and we'll see how much I gained.
Okay. All right. Right on. Again, it's Corey with an E _ Clark without an E.
Correct.
And it's
a great Twitter follow.
It's a really good follow.
Great
almost as good of a follow as War Chant, which is just War Chant. Follow it. I'm sure as soon as an offensive coordinator is named, it will be tweeted out. As of now, the recording of this show, there's not an offensive coordinator officially named. Again, it seems like Kendall Briles is the guy. The latest from Gene Williams on Wednesday afternoon sort of pointed that it was trending in the direction of happening, but nothing is official. There's possibly some things maybe standing in the way. That's why it's taking, quote, this long. I don't necessarily think if it's that long or not, but maybe you folks think it's taken a long time. But there's a reason these sort of things happen. You didn't get to listen to it, Corey, because you didn't edit the show, but Wednesday's show was a bit of a mishmash because it kept dying, the recorder, so I had to piece it together. Some people had a good laugh about it. Other people got really upset, which I just don't get, man. You guys ought to chill out. Chill out. Go hit a heavy bag. Go do some reps. Pop your buys. What was your favorite bicep exercise, Corey? Just conventional palm up curls?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's all. I think that's all I would ever do. Was there another one? What's another bicep exercise?
Oh, you can do hammer curls. You can do reverse curls. You can do.
Oh, yeah. No, I hated all that nonsense. I would just do the straight up, the one bar.
Was it the curl
weights
bar
on both sides and just lifting that bad boy up, curling these biceps.
Did you wear gloves when you would lift?
Heck no.
Okay.
Sometimes I would get a little chalk.
Oh, my man.
Smack that together like LeBron.
Yeah.
And then do it. But normally, no. I wasn't doing it long enough to get gloves.
All right. Very well. All right. Since it's Thursday, we're going to turn our attention to you, the loyal listener, and all of your questions on warchant.com. I haven't looked at the phone line in a while. We'll save that for maybe tomorrow if we get late word about coordinator hire being made, and then we'll do a show on Friday. The reason we're not going to do a show on Friday is because right now there's not a lot to talk about, and Fridays typically are the lowest rated day of the week when we do a show. So you guys are taking days off on Friday, taking 3-day weekends. You're not listening to us, so that's why we'll do what we do. And then I'll probably have my monologue about race at some point in the show today. So be on the lookout for that. Buckle up.
Yeah.
All right. First question of the day comes from FSU 91. I probably should go ahead and text Ira. I'm going to text Ira this question, and then we'll probably double back to it. But it comes from FSU 91. He asks both of us, does Florida State have a 10-day job posting requirement before it can hire a new person? I seem to remember at some point in the deep past we had to wait 10 days before a new person could fill a spot that was vacated. Is that still the case? And if so, could this be part of the reason for the wait? When did Bell resign? Do they have to wait a certain amount of time since it is a state job? Thanks. Yeah, so I'm going to send that to Ira.
That is a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, but stay tuned, 91. We'll get back to you later. Send it to Uncle Ira. I'm sure he'll give us a really well-thought-out reasoned answer on it. Next question's not even a question. It's just a comment from a guy or a gal named D. Pierce 716. Just win, baby. Go Noles. Right?
Okay.
Right.
All right. I think people can get behind that.
Yeah.
That sentiment, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Just win and go Knowles.
Yeah, there you go.
I assume he's talking about football, but he could be talking about,
anything.
any sport.
Anything. Speaking of which, that's right. If we don't have a show tomorrow, I'll probably give a supplemental recruiting update from Michael Langston will be in your podcast feed, ladies and gentlemen. So if you see like a 12 or 15-minute segment waiting for you on Friday, it's probably going to just be me asking Michael Langston about recruiting. So we'll get you your weekly recruiting news on that.
It's a big weekend this weekend, Aslan.
It is. It's the last weekend before the quiet period, before the early signing period. So that'll be kind of cool. Like what? Kendall Briles shows up Friday afternoon in Tallahassee like, yo, what up? Let's do this. Come to Tallahassee. We're gonna light up scoreboards like Christmas trees, kids.
That's what KB does.
That's what I do.
That's what KB does. That's what I'll be telling him.
Yeah. Next question. Knowles 229. Do you want 229 to make an appearance on your show?
I mean, probably not.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not.
We appreciate the offer, though. We're always looking for guests.
Yeah.
But no, we'll probably stay away from War Chant members. I tell you what, though. So, as many people that listen to this show know, Stephanie is my girlfriend. She works in a state agency, and one of her friends / coworkers is a lawyer who also is a War Chant subscriber.
Represent.
And she does. We went out for drinks with her the other night, and she does pro bono work for human trafficking victims in Tallahassee. And I thought that was, we don't know anything about our War Chant subscribers, do we?
We don't, clearly. No, that's fantastic.
And thought that was pretty
way to make a difference.
Remarkable. Just some random War Chant, well, she's not random to me, I know her, but some random War Chant member is doing this great work in this city. She lives in Tallahassee and is trying to take care of people that have been being really harmed and doing pro bono work, the Lord's work.
Pro bono means free, kids. In case you don't know.
Pro bono, yes, means free. It's I guess a fancy Latin way of saying free.
Yeah. I guess
Lawyers,
part of
man, am I right?
Part of having
why can't they just say free?
Yeah, I know the Latins are done. I guess part of it is when you are a lawyer, you're required, if you're like part of the bar or whatever, I think you're actually required to do a certain amount of hours of pro bono work. So that's kind of cool.
Well, then never mind. I guess it's not nearly as generous as I thought it was.
Well, still. It takes nothing away from it. By the way, does she lurk or does she actually get involved? Does she dip her toe into the...
She says she never posts. She just reads.
All these lurkers. I think... This is the time right now while we don't know who it's – I mean, we kind of know it's going to be Kendall Briles most likely unless something falls through, that it should be the annual or the biannual. Come on out the woodwork, lurkers. Like, what do you think? Because obviously, I mean, I think Ira or Gene has told us the percentage of people who actually post. It's such a small amount and compared to how many actual people are out there that subscribe to War Chant. So we just keep hearing the same people arguing about the same things. I'd be really curious to hear about the more sensible, pragmatic folks who don't post every single day but just kind of listen. I wonder what they think what's going on right now. What was her thoughts?
You want them to start their own thread or are you going to start a thread for lurkers?
Well, Ira mentioned doing that and he didn't do it, so I don't want to steal the thunder.
You can only post if you have less than 50 posts.
Right. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, for sure.
Otherwise, we're deleting that thing no matter what you say.
And then once you start a thread asking us why did my post get deleted, then I'll ban you.
Right.
Honey Fried
War
Pickens.
Chant justice.
Yeah, man. Honey Fried Pickens. Wake up! Thanks for providing entertainment to my lunch break, gentlemen. What are your thoughts on FSU going after a grad transfer quarterback? By the way, Corey gave me inspiration last week to make my biceps pop again, and I want this offense to pop again too. Thanks again. I love you all.
2019 might be a great year with biceps popping and offenses scoring points and stuff. How cool would that be?
Oh, man, fantastic.
I think the chances are pretty darn good, don't you, that they get a grad transfer?
Yes. I I don't know if it made it on the show yesterday. We did talk about it, but again, we had some technical difficulties, and by technical difficulties, I mean the battery ran out on me 2 times. But we did mention it. Again, I think for this thing, if you're Mr. Ms., this is the worst offensive line ever, we can't judge anything, it was the worst offensive line ever, well, that's going to be treated and helped through recruiting. Ultimately, it might take more than one cycle to get that fixed. Again, I think grad transfer is a possibility on the offensive line. There's JUCO guys that Michael Langston will talk about in depth later on this week. But just go get a good quarterback. I mean, not even a good quarterback. Just get a quarterback who can fit this sort of offense. I mean, think about like Jalen Hurts, right? So Jalen Hurts makes all these great throws on the run. It's because he's being flushed out of the pocket. I mean, Alabama's offensive line is fantastic, but I think there's a certain – I don't know if everyone here is just a Florida State and a New England Patriot fan. Do they just watch like Tom Brady get 4.3 seconds in the pocket? 89% of the time he drops back, and that's what they think is supposed to happen. Like, no, man. Guys constantly are getting knocked out of the pocket, getting harassed, have to move around, do some things. They just didn't have a quarterback who thrived in that sort of situation. Go find one of those guys. They're not that hard to find, and that probably gives you your instant repair, your instant patch, your short-term solution, man. So go find it. Do something.
Agreed. I mean, again, I wouldn't say there are quarterbacks that thrive being pressured. That's never good for any quarterback. But there are guys that can handle it better than others. And Florida State just went through a season with a quarterback that did not handle it well at all. Except for that one game in Raleigh when they had another quarterback throw for a lot of yards and some touchdowns.
Oh, yeah, that guy. I remember that. All right, next question. Bimini bound. Aslan, perhaps you can play Wind Beneath My Wings while reading this. Corey, by the way, I'm not going to because it's going to get flagged for copyright infringement. If you listen to this on YouTube, you probably wondered like what the heck happened last week on the Thursday show. Noldad84 had wanted us to play whatever, like Slayer, Angel of Death or whatever. Literally just playing it for that 6 seconds that we played it, 8-9 seconds. YouTube's copyright bots or algorithms sensed it out and then stamped us, telling us that you got to go to the corner. We got in trouble for that. So even if I play Wind Beneath My Wings for 6 seconds here to add to Bimini Bound's question, it's going to get flagged again, and then I got to go through all this stuff to get it muted. So basically, if you listened to it on YouTube last week, there was a 8-second just dead silence. That's because I had to go in and remove that song from the podcast. So I don't feel like doing that.
When you have to go remove a song, you should sing it yourself.
Oh, that's I was thinking about Chariots of Fire. Did you ever know that you're my hero? Corey, great article on Charlie Ward. You're everything I was meant to be. While reading it, I couldn't help but feel a sense of sadness. I can fly higher than an eagle. Sadness that we are associating the name Briles with this program. I want to win, but I want to put a Briles autograph on my shelf next to Charlie Ward's. 'Cause you are the wind beneath my wings. Maybe this hire is taking... Okay.
Fly.
All right.
Fly. All right, I'm not going to do that part.
Maybe this hire is taking so long because FSU wants Briles to legally change his last name before announcing. I think it took 2 weeks for my wife to change hers. What's your most outlandish theory? All right, so he's saying outlandish theory. He doesn't want a reason, practical, grounded in reality. What is your most outlandish theory?
That he's not going to come to Florida State unless his dad is named head coach in waiting. There you go. How's that? That's pretty outlandish, right?
Cannot top that. I liked where you were going, and then you put the extra oomph in it.
There's a pretty substantial percentage of Florida State fans, I feel like, who would be like, okay, that dude wins. Yeah. We can do that. Not a lot. I'm not saying it's a majority. I'm not saying it's 80%, but I bet there are thousands of Florida State fans that would be okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Florida State fans, so saying thousands could be a very small percentage.
Like they did a poll after all the tapes were released in Watergate, where Nixon's saying all that crazy stuff, and they know what he did, the cover up, bugging headquarters, all the stuff they did that was so undemocratic to cheat the Democrats and steal an election, which is what he did, plus all the nasty stuff he said, it's all on tape. And still 31% of the country still gave him he's still an approval rating of like in the low 30s. So that means there was millions of people that were still Richard Nixon fans after they found out all that stuff. So people are going to be people. And there would be people that are perfectly fine with Art Briles being their head coach. Not a majority, but certainly some. And that's not I'm not saying that as a plight of Florida State fans. That would be every fan base.
I feel like this would be a good time for me to do my monologue on race. Are you ready?
No, let's peel back on that a little bit. Maybe get to a couple more questions.
Okay,
and then we'll get to that near the end.
Leonard Skinner said that, right? Watergate don't mean a thing to me, or something like that.
Aslan, get the lyrics right.
I don't know.
Watergate does not bother me.
Does not bother. See?
Yeah.
If Skinner had said it,
conscience bother you, tell the truth.
Well, hey, Art Briles, win football games. Football games. But no, I still haven't read Corey's article, or his column rather, on Charlie Ward. But I've seen it's had universal praise on warchant.com. Use the promo code warchant30.
Kind of low-hanging fruit there, right?
No, man.
Something positive about Charlie Ward.
Well, I mean, it's.
But I crushed it. I did it. It's a Corey Clark column, so it's unique. It's different. It's witty. As I said, it's an all-time great writing about an all-time great.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
goat on goat. Goat on goat literature. Goat on goat journalism.
Yeah, that's right.
By the way, I want to give you a shout out real quick, Corey. I was at the SEC championship game a few weeks back and then read a column by a columnist over at alabama.com, al.com. And if you've never lived in Alabama, folks, they are an absolute, like what War Chant is to covering Florida State athletics, they are to covering everything in the state of Alabama, like politics, education, sports. The amount of people they have, they literally have larger multimedia digital teams than television stations do for sporting events, right? So like there's nothing for want for that media group. And their columnist wrote something obviously about, the greatness of Jalen coming in full circle, the place where he lost his job to the same team. He comes back and saves Alabama's season, et cetera, et cetera. And I read the column, I'm just like, eh. And I've always wondered, like, what makes a good columnist? And I'm like, Corey is a really good columnist. And he's at warchant.com, folks. So
thanks, buddy. That's a really nice nice endorsement. I've been waiting on the Aslan endorsement for a while, and I finally got it after about a year.
You want to say anything nice about me?
No, man. Let's get to another question real quick.
FSU guy 1989. Morning, guys. If we get Briles, then we will be the brag offense. Okay, I like that.
Yes, I like that. That's probably better than what we come up with. Taggles.
Taggles.
Maybe like braggart.
Yeah.
Braggart or Taggles, we're gonna have to figure that out, but it's gonna be one or the other. I don't want lethal simplicity anymore.
Yeah,
that one needs to be buried and burned. But Braggart or Taggles is perfect.
Oh, man, I gotta write this question down because this is something I want to ask you. But I think we don't need to talk about it now because it's a little bit negative and everybody gets upset and they get triggered when I go towards negative town. But this would be a really good off-season question, so I'm going to write it down here while I stall and hem and haw, but we'll talk about some other point. It has to do with lethal simplicity. But anyhow, FSU guy 1989 continues, I feel like so far this offseason has been as tumultuous as our previously forgettable campaign. We just can't seem to win. Are we really that bad of a job that we can't go out and get whoever we want? And if we don't get an offensive coordinator and Sam Howell flips, what kind of position does that put us in? What happens if we end up like the Redskins? P.S. Aslan, how triggered do you get when you hear the Kansas City Chiefs doing the war chant? I laugh. I don't get too triggered. I kind of laugh. I was a weird dude. I wouldn't even do the chop in the Civic Center when I was a student at basketball games. I'm like, nope, not doing it. I just only do it in Doak. But yeah, whenever the Braves do it, I covered a minor league team in Jackson that was the Mississippi Braves. They were Atlanta, the Braves, the Bravos, Atlanta's Double-A team, and they would play the chant, and I would just laugh. There'd be 37 people in the stands just and only 5 of them would do the chop. I'm like, this is sacrilege. Stop it. It's only allowed when there's like 80, there's got to be 62,000 people doing it for it to have its true sort of umph. Back to what goes on here now with the hunt for an offensive coordinator. I mean, I don't know. Like, if we lose Sam Howell, again, I don't know. Maybe I'm just totally apathetic about everything right now. It's a bummer. He's the only quarterback you have committed. Even if you get a grad transfer guy and then say Francois or Blackman leaves, you're in a bad position. You want a high school kid you can build around. But I don't know if he's sort of some sort of I don't know, master key. Like, he's the skeleton key that he can just unlock everything in Willie's offense and make it run big time. It hurts. It never looks good when you lose guys that late in the game that have been committed to you for that long. But they'll overcome. I'm not too worried about that. And, man, listen, and somebody pointed this out yesterday. Corey, are you still there? I've been talking a lot. You haven't interrupted me. All right, just making sure. Said that, like, we talk out of both sides of our mouth by saying that Willie possibly handing everything over to Kendall Briles is a act of desperation. Then we also say that Florida State is limited in who they can go after, but the Florida State brand name echoes, and they should be able to get whoever they want. I love Florida State. It's my university. If I ever have children, I will forcibly push them in the direction of going to Tallahassee and Florida State University. I think it's a great job. We're fans. You got to kind of remove yourself from things sometimes. It's a really great job, but I don't think you can't just pick up the phone and call anybody and they're just going to drop everything like, oh my God, I'm coming to Florida State. Yeah, it still rings really far across the country. It's still a very prestigious job, but I don't think Florida State, I don't know how many places can just pick up a phone and call whoever they want and get them. Doesn't mean it's a bad job. There's just so many different options now for coaches. Coordinators can stay at places and get big-time raises and don't have to only worry about one side of the ball, and they don't want to chase after other things. So it's just the nature of the beast. I don't think this reflects poorly on Taggart's reputation or anything like that. It's just the guy left us, 2 weeks ago, Walt Bell. It's a tough time to find a coach with bowl practices and early signing periods. That's sort of the reality of the situation.
Yeah, and when we talk, it's not. Maybe it is talking out of both sides of our mouth. I don't know. I think Florida State, everything being equal, can get almost anybody they want from like.
What does that mean, though?
What
most
would you
everything
say, like 100
equal? Schools.
Like, they're not going to go get the OC from Georgia. They're not going to go get the OC from LSU or Notre Dame or somebody like that. But, could they go get the OC from, say, if they wanted one, from Virginia Tech? Yeah. Or heck, I don't know, Arizona State. They could go. There's a lot of Power 5 schools where guys would typically jump to go to Florida State. But there are also mitigating factors. It's not just apples to apples. Like, are you going to leave a job at, say, I'm just throwing out Arizona. Are you going to leave a job at Arizona where you're the offensive coordinator that actually calls everything to go beat a coordinator in name only at Florida State? There's a lot of things that go into hiring someone. So I do think that Florida State still, it's 2 bad years, but it's still Florida State. They still have that status. And I know they lost their OC. He didn't do a great job. Well, he did. He's a head coach now. And the last OC before him is a head coach, and the last OC before him is making $1 gazillion at Texas A&M. So it's usually a pretty good career move. Kendall Briles, I would think he's coming to Florida State. I think it would be a pretty good career move for him, but he probably wants assurances that he can bring this guy with him or that guy with him, and he gets to call the plays. I think what happens in these prolonged coaching searches, and we think it's prolonged. When did he quit? 10 days ago?
Sounds about right.
9 days ago. That's not, when he was hired last year? I just looked it up.
December 3rd he left, and it's December 13th if you're listening to this, which, by the way, is my mother's birthday. Happy birthday to my lovely mother.
Shout out. Yeah. The big 4-0?
Oh, yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. Good for her. Walt Bell was hired January 16th of last year. Willie Taggart had been the FSU head coach for 6 weeks before he hired an offensive coordinator. These things aren't something that always get done really quickly. I don't think it's as prolonged as we think it is. It's just because if you're listening to us or you're on War Chant, you do get nuggets of what is going on behind the scenes a little bit. But I think that's natural. Like most people, like how long did it take you to take the war chant job? Be honest. How long did those talks go on?
Months. We first talked about it in September during the Alabama game last year.
Yeah, and then you came aboard, what, in January?
Yeah, like February 3rd or 4th was like my first day. But I basically got here like a few days before signing day started.
It's just, obviously it has to be expedited because of recruiting and the nature of the business. You can't wait 6 months to decide. Kendall Briles can't wait 4 months to decide. But negotiations take time. They do happen. I think we worry too much if, it hasn't happened right now, it's not going to happen. And I think, quite frankly, last year kind of spoiled Florida State fans because Willie Taggart was hired in about 9 minutes.
Yeah.
There was no coaching search, really. They went after their first guy. He was the number one guy, and he got it. That doesn't normally happen. Look at Florida, always kind of going option B, option C, landing on a Ron Zook somehow or a McElwain. That, you don't – it just – sometimes it can take time. I think that's the nature of the sport. I wouldn't say that's actually that's a negative with Florida State, but even though I've written about and people know that Florida State pays really well, that pays their assistants really well, top 10 in the country, they aren't A&M where they can just throw so much money at you that it's not even a decision. They can't go get Elko for $2.2 million. Like, that just can't happen. So there are some realistic restrictions that Florida State has, but by and large, they go, I guess they wanted Hugh Freeze. He said no, but it's not like he said no to stay out of the business or to be an OC at LSU. He went to be a head coach. And they lost Walt Bell to be a head coach. Now, offensive coordinator to offensive coordinator, I think they can get kind of, again, I think they can get 80% of the offensive coordinators in this country to come to Florida State, maybe 85. Nah, I can't do the math. What's 85% of 130? But that's how many schools are in the country. So I think they can get – there's 100 offensive coordinators right now, 105.
110.
That would say, yeah, I'll go.
But let's be honest.
Kendall Briles might be saying it.
Of those 130, how many do we think are worthy of Florida State?
Yeah, that's the thing, though. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Is the offensive coordinator
really coaches?
Is the offensive coordinator at Wisconsin good enough for Florida State? Is the offensive coordinator at Kansas State good enough for Florida State?
Yeah, no,
that's the thing.
Those are the right questions. It's got to be somebody that runs this offense, that does spread. And if Kendall Briles for some reason doesn't come, I don't think it's because, man, Florida State doesn't offer me as much as LSU or Houston. He, for whatever reason, would think that Houston has a better chance of propelling him to the next level where he'll be a head coach sooner. I think that's wrong. I don't think that's true. I think if he came into Florida State and turned this thing into something, that can score, within 2 years he could be a head coach at a Power 5 school. I do think that, if people aren't scared off by the last name. But if he doesn't come, I don't think it's because Florida State has lost any prestige or he thinks Houston is a better program than Florida State. There's just mitigating factors. That's all.
Fair enough. Next question.
I don't think I answered that well. I was kind of just a roundabout saying the same thing over and over again, but I tried to sound smart. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Nailed it. Stringer Walt Bell, which you're going to have to probably change your username now. It was good while it lasted, though, right? Good morning, gentlemen. Wake up! Do you see whoever the next offensive coordinator is coming in and being honest about the evaluation of how things are run and the overall growth of players throughout the offseason? Just wondering if we'll have to go the whole offseason wondering what coaches are saying in interviews is just optimistic coach speak or an honest evaluation. I'd rather hear, we still look like a 5-7 team and expect that come fall than something much more optimistic but ultimately false. Thoughts? P.S. Thanks for all of your hard work. Thank you, Stringer Walt Bell. Appreciate that. We're out here trying.
Thanks, String. Appreciate it, man.
Grinding. Yeah, I don't know. It will be interesting because, again, if it's Kendall Briles that he's going to be the guy who calls all the plays and gets to bring in his own offensive coordinator. I think Gene Williams has even reported that there's some rumbling that he might even want to bring UCF's quarterback coach to potentially be his quarterback coach if he does come to Florida State.
Well,
so,
and his old line coach. Too.
Yeah. Did I say that? I thought I said that.
You said offensive coordinator.
I'm sorry, offensive line coach. I apologize. Offensive line. Randy Clements. So, I mean, if you're bringing all those guys in, maybe you feel a little more, I don't know, I want to say loose lips, but maybe you feel like, listen, you have more control. You have more, assertiveness, autonomy over your segment so you can, give a better assessment of what you're doing. But I don't blame really anything on what Walt Bell said or what Willie Taggart said. I mean, I just think it just reflects somewhat negatively when you spend all offseason talking about how good this team can be and how good you feel about things and everything's going really well, and then you come out the gates and you look that bad against Virginia Tech and really can't find your footing at any point. But Walt Bell there was a lot of times where he'd be like, hey, man, you guys are trying to get me in trouble. I'm a good soldier. We're going to get this thing figured out. There's no coach in the country that's better than Willie. So I don't know how much he felt sort of the need to walk that line. If a guy like Kendall Briles comes in making $1.3 million and they let him bring this guy and bring that guy, and maybe he'll be a little more like, I'm confident in who I am, what we have. I think I can make this work, as opposed to being a little more, we'll have to wait and see. Because, I think Jeff Cameron played on a show a few weeks back. You made mention of it on a show a week or so ago. I mean, we were at a point in the offseason or that, kind of somebody asked, Walt, what are you going to be doing on game day since you're not calling plays? And he was kind of, I don't really know that yet either. We'll figure it out. So with roles being a little bit more defined, maybe there'll be a coach that just feels the ability that he can speak more freely and accurately about what's going to happen.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
come on, disagree, huh? Pick a fight with me, Corey. Bring it.
No. I think with college football coaches, you can't expect truth all that often. It's not completely transparent, nor should it be. Like if a kid isn't any good, you don't want your coach telling the media that. So I don't know how honest and open he'll be about certain aspects of the program or the offense. And that's not saying Walt Bell wasn't. I mean, he was about as transparent as you could be. He would admit that they had struggles. He wouldn't say it out. He wouldn't necessarily say it by name, but he goes, people know where our weaknesses are. We're trying to fix those, or we're trying to get better at those, without saying the offensive line is garbage. He would say that. It's just such a. Imagine if Kendall Briles brings in two of his assistants. Kendall Briles, now it's. Yeah. 30% of the coaches are Kendall Briles and his guys. Yeah, that's just, it's going to be an odd dynamic if that's the case. Number one, you would have to fire a Florida State alum and a guy that had a pretty good track record and left Michigan to come coach at his alma mater. Left a good job to come coach at his alma mater to just get axed in 1 year after he was given just a mess by the person that was before him. And we're like, all right, well, hey, we appreciate it, man. Good luck, Greg. That wouldn't be an easy conversation. And I don't know, quite frankly, that Kendall Briles has earned the right to go to a place like Florida State and say, I'm only coming if I can bring these guys with me. I mean, yeah, he did well with Lane Kiffin. Well, it's Lane Kiffin. And he did well at Houston. Okay, well, yeah, it was Major Applewhite, who was the offensive coordinator at Houston. Like, he's running their offenses too. I'm not disputing that he knows what he's doing. But I don't know that he's earned the right necessarily to be making, number one, to get paid that, and then to come and say, yeah, I got to bring my guys with me or I'm not coming. It's like, I don't know, man. Greg Fry put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this university. But again, Willie Taggart it's his program. And if he thinks that this guy's better than Greg Fry, or if he thinks the combination of Briles and his guy at offensive line coach are better than Coach X and Greg Fry, then he's got to do what's best for the program. It's just, I guess that's the nature of the beast. But it's, that wouldn't be an easy conversation, I wouldn't think.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
we kind of forget about that. Like, oh, he's got to bring in his O-line coach to get here. Well, all right, he's got to do what he's got to do. Well, yeah, okay, but what do you say to Greg Fry? I mean, nobody could argue that Greg Fry did a good job this year, but nobody could also argue he was molding great chunks of clay. It was a bunch of, dried up dirt. There was nothing there for him to really work with. And now after 1 year, when he came back to his alma mater, he's going to bounce. He's going to get bounced for a guy that has no connections at all to Florida State University. Not saying that's wrong or right, just saying that's the reality, and it's certainly a bummer for Greg Fry if that happens.
Yeah. Well, Briles got a new contract earlier this month, actually. So his base salary went up 150 G. So his base salary is $550, but then he gets an annual $150 non-salary compensation on top of that. So he makes
probably $150,000, right?
$150,000. Sorry, there's all these numbers and commas. I can't read numbers. You know that,
right?
So he makes $700,000. He's the highest paid assistant in non-Power 5 Group 6 football. So yeah, I mean, to get him out of Houston, you do have to spend that money, which maybe people don't think he deserves. But yeah, you can't.
Well, and you gotta buy him out. I assume you got to buy Greg Fry out.
Yeah.
You're talking
and you're
about
still paying
dollars that you're investing in. Art Briles' son.
And I still think they're paying the buyout to USF that Oregon was on the hook for. So like when Oregon hired Taggart, they had to pay USF money, and I think that's still ongoing, or at least that was something that Florida State was on the hook for. I think they still are still paying that out. If not, they've already got done with it, but that's something that they did absorb when they did hire Taggart. So that's a lot of money floating around. You just can't get rid of these guys and write them off the books. That's why a lot easier to, it used to be a lot easier to hire and fire coaches because you can't fire all the players. But hey, man, process everybody, get some transfers.
Well, yeah. The assistants used to all be on one-year contracts. Well, that ain't happening anymore.
Well, all right, next question comment comes from Renegade _State. I find it hilarious that there were multiple people saying the lack of woo. So we need an acronym. Do you like WUW for Wake Up War Chant, Corey? I mean, it makes sense. But is it woo? It looks weird. Like,
yeah, it's kind of woo or whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't even, woo is like WOO.
Yeah.
Maybe so it's like whoa.
Maybe like whoop. Whoop.
Yeah, I don't
just
like
W
that,
up.
but I don't know what else we could do.
Just W up. Whoop. Whoop. Yesterday on whoop.
Yeah, see, it doesn't really flow off the tongue, does it?
All right, somebody figure out a better acronym than woo. But anyhow, Renegade State found it hilarious that there were multiple people earlier in the week saying that the lack of Wake Up War Chant on Monday was a sign that big news was about to drop. Meanwhile, Aslan was watching a performance at the Nutcracker while Corey was getting poop-faced on Bourbon Street.
Yeah, it really had nothing to do with that at all. Daddy was just in New Orleans trying to recover. And actually, I guess we could have recorded on Sunday afternoon, but I was at the World War II Museum, and then I was at Harrah's. And, frankly, we got to live a little, don't we, Aslan?
Yeah, you're right. You ain't wrong.
Well, that's important. That's important stuff to do. I mean, I could have recorded, I guess, a segment from my hotel room.
Somebody put in that thread, yeah, I guess these guys are going to take the week off like it's Christmas in the middle of the most important week of Willie Taggart's career, or like the most important week of the season. I'm like, come on, jeez. Was the Florida game not the most important game week of the season?
Because nobody 2 weeks ago expected this to happen at all. Like, we expected changes to be made, but none of us were thinking Walt Bell was gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I shouldn't say that. I guess it's always a possibility, but nobody, when that Florida game was over, was like, all right, well, let's get to firing an OC and hiring an OC. No fans were saying that at all. And now all of a sudden, the guy leaves, and it's the biggest week of Willie Taggart's career. Well, you didn't think that 10 days ago? Nobody did. Now, I'm not saying it's not an important hire, especially if he's willing to give up the offense. But, again, it's not like, he's going to ride and die with the decisions, in my opinion, with the decisions he made 11 months ago. That's the majority of his coaching staff. This is going to be important, obviously. But we don't know what he's bringing in. We assume it's Briles, and apparently Briles is bringing the whole Houston staff with him. But if that doesn't happen, he might go back to just kind of a dude that's going to run his offense that's from a Maryland-type place. All right. And it's not like we wouldn't have recorded if they had hired an OC. I would have, I'd have been from one of the bars on Bourbon Street. I would have, I think we were on Frenchman Street. But either way, I would have stepped outside. You would have heard some horns in the background. Sure, that's fine. It's New Orleans. but I would have talked about it. I would have had an opinion. We're always on call, baby.
Yeah, you think we'd be silenced? You think we would know something and be silent and not share with you folks? Come on, we'd be all
crazy?
over it.
This is what we live for.
I'm glad you went to Frenchman Street. How did you enjoy it?
I did. So the thing with New Orleans with me is I can only listen to that kind of music for about an hour, I think.
Right.
Like the brass bands,
Agreed.
all the horns.
Agreed. Yeah.
Them chanting with each other, like taking breaks and chanting and then going back to playing the same thing over and over again. I get it. I appreciate it. They're talented musicians. But, occasionally I want to walk across the street and hear an Oasis cover. That doesn't make me crazy. But I want to go hear the rock band play a cover song. But I can do it for about an hour, so that's what we did. We went to a couple different places one of them on Frenchman Street was actually doing reggae. So it was a lot of Bob Marley, and that was cool. I like that.
That's your
wheelhouse.
wheelhouse.
And then we went to another brass band deal, and then that was it. I can't handle it for too long.
Yeah,
and I can't listen to jazz at all.
Yeah, jazz. I got a good friend who lives in St. Pete, and whenever because he can actually walk from his house to all the bars and everything in downtown St. Pete, and on the way is this jazz bar / cigar bar that he loves. And he'll be drunk and he'll be like, "Man, let's just stop in, man. They got a really good band playing tonight." I'm like, no. And jazz is such a nebulous, vague genre. Like when I think of jazz, I think of just like soulful horns, like some guy playing an upright bass. But then you got, like B.B. King's The Blues, and then people think that's jazz, and it's like, man, I don't know. I'm not a big jazz guy. It's important.
Yeah, I appreciate the art form.
Yeah,
they're very skilled.
It is. It helped lend itself to a lot of music that we enjoy today. But
yeah, I couldn't. I can't get into it. I've tried. I promise. I just can't get into it.
Go out and see the ballet instead, people. Doak FSU won.
Nutcracker that baby all night long.
Good morning, Knoll Nation. Baseball question here. All right, next question. Nixon Knoll. I'm just kidding. Doak FSU, we love you. Doak FSU 1 asks a baseball question here. With the new facilities upgrade through the athletic department, what changes will you see to the baseball field? Great ballpark, just need some updates, bad. Excited to see 11 go out with a bang. All right, glad you asked that. I pulled it up here. $6 million of the Unconquered campaign, which was it a nice, cool, even $100 million, this whole thing with the golf and the football and everything, Corey? That sounds right, correct?
Sure, man, that sounds right.
$100 million. They have a master plan, but that's going to have to happen down the line. Initially, $6 million is going to go into new field lighting, construction of permanent bleachers down the third baseline, which the weird thing is of this rendering that they actually show, the crazy thing is they have the IPF shown on the first baseline, but it's actually the third baseline where you would see the IPF. But what they're going to do is they're going to put like an overhang, like an actual part, like a grandstand sort of overhang or ceiling. I don't know how the proper construction terminology. You used to be a roofer and a framer, Corey. What do they call that? Like the overhang, like a shaded.
That is the technical term.
Yeah, exactly. So construction of permanent bleachers down the third baseline, a new team building and enhanced entrance, and a renovated team weight room. So they're not going to be the most facelift of all the sort of aspects of things, but hey, man. Hauser is what it is. It's a nice, small little ballpark, and it's located perfectly. So just get a little tweak here and there. That sounds like what they're going to do to it. But
well, I'll be honest with you. I think it needs more than a little tweak, only because I've been to other stadiums, and Clemson's got a really facelift, and it's a really nice park now. The SEC parks are just like jewels. I mean, it's pretty remarkable the money they spend on their baseball. Again, they're making so much money, they got to spend it on something. Florida State doesn't compete facilities-wise with those schools. They compete tradition, obviously, and coaching and location and all that. But they're behind them a pretty substantial bit in facilities, much more so than the football team is, by the way. The football team still has an awesome stadium. And is building their football mansion and has the IPF and everything else. The baseball team, they could use a real big facelift on the baseball stadium and some alterations. But I just don't know if they can do that anytime soon.
Yeah. And I actually pulled a zoomed out of the rendering. So the third baseline, it's basically going to be an extension of the grandstand. Like it's going to be metal. It's going to be concrete, actual permanent bleachers, flip down seats, and then the grandstand, the overhang, the backstop, or what have you, will continue down that part of the field. So yeah, man.
All right. Okay.
The crazy thing is,
I hope it looks nice.
I just don't think I'm so detached from how old I am. I still think I'm 23 because when I was in school, they did the big 2002, 2003 renovation at Hauser, and that was like a big deal. Like they updated the entrance, and I think they had the below home base sort of luxury box thing and all that. Like all that stuff was new, and it was like, oh man, this is crazy. But that was, literally 15 years ago. Which I can't wrap my head around, that you have to keep playing catch-up. But I'll still enjoy going to Hauser and having a good little hamburger and hot dog and talking to Corey in the press box.
And you can get a beer now, too.
Yeah, I look forward to those days. I relish those opportunities.
Yeah, man, only 3 more months, and we're there.
Yeah. There's a couple back-and-forth conversations going on the thread. I'm not going to read them, but just so we do know, shout out to Seminole Wizard and Nixonol for getting involved in the conversation. AJ,
we appreciate it, guys. Yeah, we really do.
AJ Knoll, 09. Corey, how many feet did you splash with urine in New Orleans?
0, actually. I'm still on 1. I've been on 1 since March in Nashville. But yeah, you would have thought if anybody is if you're ever gonna pee on people again, it'd be in New Orleans. But no. Didn't we weren't on Bourbon Street for very long. I think when people talk about New Orleans smelling like pee and being kind of dirty, it's that one street. Like Frenchman Street isn't crazy like that. And all the canal, and it's not. It's just Bourbon Street is where the real decadence is, and depravity. And we weren't on there very often, so we didn't have to deal with much of that.
Bradley Moss, 22. Wake up. It says, please say in Wake Up San Francisco voice. That's right. Wake up. All right,
what is that? Is that from Full House?
Full House. Aunt Becky.
Okay.
Aunt Becky.
Sweet Becky.
Sweet Lori Loughlin. All right, looks like we're going after Briles, ? Maybe by the time you read this, he will be hired, ? Questionable past that I'm not too comfortable with, but I don't know all the details. I guess I would want to grab a beer with him. Maybe after a few, he will let me know what the hell happened at Baylor. Also, see if he can get this FSU offense to score more than 21 points per game. The whole grab a beer with him is, I put that as part of the thread. I'm like, hey, everybody, what's going on? What do you want to talk about? Who's going to be the next offensive coordinator? Would you want to drink a beer with them? So that's why he was saying it. Bradley Moss.
Got it.
He's not advocating, carousing with alleged facilitators of sexual assault or anything like that. He just was answering a question. Be nice to him. Anyways, I also want to get your take on the quarterback situation. Any new buzz on potential grad transfers? Francois possibly leaving. Also seems like Howell wants to see who the coordinator is going to be before he signs, which is understandable. But I agree with what you guys talked about last week, that if he doesn't want to sign with FSU because Walt Bell left, then let him sign elsewhere. I don't know how others feel, but I wouldn't lose any sleep over it if he doesn't sign with Florida State. I'd be perfectly fine with Blackman starting next year and or having someone like Jalen Hurts. Thoughts? Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for powering through the week for us. Go Noles. Thank you, Bradley Moss. Appreciate that. Thank you, man. Really, truly.
Yeah, I think if you had to choose, but I think most Florida State, I don't know. I don't even know if that's true or not. I would think that Jalen Hurts would be a better fit for Florida State, even for just a year, than Sam Howell. But again, Sam Howell, you might be getting 3 or 4 years out of him. So I get that it's not apples to apples with that comparison. But for the 2019 team, Jalen Hurts would certainly be a better fit and a better alternative. But yeah, man, we'll see with Howell. Of course he wants to know who the OC is. Nobody can blame him for that. I just thought it was crazy, and still do, that all of a sudden Walt Bell leaves and, Florida State has no chance. It's like, man, what did he think Walt Bell was? What did he watch this year to think that's the guy I got to go play for? Obviously, he's not going to UMass with him. So, I get that the guy that he had the connection with isn't here anymore, but I also can't believe that he has no relationship at all with Willie Taggart. It's Willie Taggart's offense. It's his program. It just that seems really was really hard to believe that would weigh so much on him. But again, he's not. He certainly hasn't said for sure I'm coming to Florida State. So not having an OC is a big deal. I get that. He doesn't want to, find out that they've hired, Paul Johnson. How about that? Why don't they just do that? Then they'd run for a lot of yards. He doesn't need great offensive linemen. All you're doing is diving at people's knees. Florida State guys can definitely do that.
The guy at Arizona, the Khalil Tate, he literally tweeted out, "I didn't come to Arizona to run the triple option." And that was when they were thinking about going after the Navy coach, and they ended up getting Kevin Sumlin. So, yeah.
He didn't come to play for Kevin Sumlin either, apparently.
Yeah. Hey-o. What's that?
This is Channels Television's breaking news.
We got breaking news coming down, Corey.
Uh-oh.
Uncle Irish O'Fell tweeted back at me, or texted me back. FSU 91, this is for you. The question at the beginning of the show.
Can I just say something real quick? When you break into the show to say that we've got breaking news, for the first time ever, by the way, I think most people are going to think, they've hired an offensive coordinator.
Oh, yeah.
Not Ira responded to some question from 40 minutes ago. But anyway, go ahead. Let's hear it.
A little tone deaf, huh? A little tone deaf?
That's all right.
My God, Corey. We're at 50 minutes. This is 50 minutes, and we have, 7 more questions.
Oh, goodness. Well, let's go. Read Ira's response real quick.
I'm almost certain, Ira, I'm paraphrasing him, that Florida State can get away with circumventing those time requirements when they have, quote, urgent situations. I do not think that's an ongoing issue. So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is a state job. Those things do apply, but I think there's obviously, as Ira said, they can circumvent in these, quote, urgent situations. I'm sure if you demonstrate the fact that this is a competitive landscape, you can't wait because you're going to put the university in a bad situation if you miss out on somebody of this caliber, that they'll be like, all right, that's fine. Go ahead, do what you got to do. So that's that. Next question.
Well said.
Null fan from South Florida. That's a long one. Wake up! Long time, first time. Welcome.
All right.
Welcome. Like the show, listen daily. Corey, my man, keep up the diarrhea of the mouth. I suffer from it also. Plus, you tell it like it is. Straight, with no chaser. Keep on yapping. Don't worry about everybody else and their opinion. Aslan, whatever.
Is that really what it says?
No, it says you're cool too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Shout out. Yeah, he's an OG. He's been there since 2005. I think we've probably fought in the same. We probably fought in the same wars back in the day. Xavier Lee, Drew Weatherford, all that kind of stuff. Choose your side.
Yeah, that great QB competition
on the right.
in the past.
We were on the right.
Devontae.
We were on the right side of history on that one. I feel confident about. With it now coming out, and this was posted on Tuesday, so give him a little slack. With it now coming out that President Thrasher has now stepped into these negotiations, does that expose that Jimbo may have been onto something about boosters and how things are run? Don't get me wrong, I don't like how Jimbo left, but I've always felt like boosters needed some new blood running things. This is now another situation where the higher-ups have stalled negotiations. I ask because if Taggart were not to work out, and if we were to market for a new coach, the way things are currently ran would make a viable candidate wary of jumping at the position. Thanks in advance. Keep up the good work. Go Noles. Yeah, that's some cloak and dagger stuff that I'm not totally familiar with the inner workings, the machinations of how these things happen. I just think John Thrasher he's involved, man. And I don't fault him for it. I kind of dig it. I think he's got his head in the right place as well as his heart when it comes to figuring these things out. I think he did want to keep Jimbo. I think when he knew Jimbo wasn't going to stay, and Jimbo wanted to stay to coach the Monroe game, he said, yeah, really? Beat it. That's fine with me. But no, I don't think this, again, John Thrasher getting involved, I don't think it's an indication of dysfunction or would make any future coach, if Taggart doesn't work out, weary about taking on. Because first of all, no matter how long, if Taggart is even only here for one more year, John Thrasher's probably only here for another year as well. He's getting close to retirement, so I don't think he'll be anything that will be factored into a head coaching search if Florida State has to go down that route. But I think John Thrasher's a good advocate if you're a head football coach. I think he's a guy that gets it.
I do too. I was going to say that, and I don't think that's abnormal for the president of the university. I mean, this is a really important hire. You could argue rightly, because the guy makes more money than anyone on campus, that the head football coach is the most important hire a university can make. And his offensive coordinator is right up there too. So, of course, he should be involved. I don't think that it stalls anything. The booster situation, it is a little bit unique at Florida State. We all know that. And the person that started it, Andy Miller, has been doing it for 40 years. Doesn't mean he's doing a bad job. They've grown, exponentially since he started, obviously. So is the program. I don't think Florida State wants for anything when it comes to football. I mean, look.
Come on. How can you say that, Corey? They're not going to have a football-only facility for another 3 years.
But they're going to have one.
But for 3 years from now.
But
everyone else already has this. They're competing against people that have already had these things established.
2 years ago, nobody cared. 2 years ago, it wasn't even on anybody's radar.
Well, 2 years ago, Jimbo Fisher was a good coach. 2 years ago, he was an awesome coach. 2 years ago, Willie Taggart won 10 games. Life comes at you fast.
But my point is, it might be too slow for your taste. The gears might be grinding a little too slowly, but they are grinding, and it is being made.
That's
and
fair.
The IPF was built. And the stadium was renovated. And the locker rooms were built. And the coach's office were renovated. All this stuff is happening. They went after one head coach last year and got him after their head coach bounced for A&M. They kept Jimbo happy-ish for 8 years. And that's not an easy thing to do. Everything Jimbo asked for, he got. Whether it was assistant coaches' raises, an IPF, the football mansion that's coming, he eventually got it all. So I don't think the Seminole boosters are going to say, what? Kendall Briles wants $1.1 million? No way. We can't do that. Go get us somebody for $400,000. That's not happening. It's not ever happened. I mean, they guaranteed Harlan Barnett $3 million. It's just this weird narrative that Florida State can't pony up. They can't compete with Alabama and A&M. If A&M and them are going after the same offensive coordinator, Florida State can't offer $2.2 million to a defensive coordinator.
Well, then throw Clemson in there too.
But that
wouldn't
be
$2 million
financially responsible to do it anyway. A&M has more money than anybody knows what to do with. Florida State isn't in that realm, but they have plenty of money to make sure their football team gets really, really good coaches. It hasn't been well spent the last 2 years.
Yeah, that's fair.
That doesn't mean they're not willing to spend.
A very good point. Very valid point. They gave Jimbo money to spend on assistant coaches, and he brought in Bill Miller. Thanks, John James.
And gave Charles Kelly consistent raises.
Yeah.
I will say this, though. That's the problem. But anyway, I think President Thrasher being involved is a good thing. Because
Correct.
I think, unlike many university presidents, the dude's a politician, but he's also a sports fan, and he cares. And he knows how vitally important the football program is to this university. So, of course, it just wouldn't make sense to not do whatever you could to make sure your football program starts winning again. He knows the bottom line. He knows what they're looking at next year with half-empty stadiums if this thing doesn't get turned around. It's vitally important to the administration to have a good football season and to have a good football team. They know that. This isn't Princeton. They get it. They get the reality of the situation. I promise you, they're trying to get the best people they can for the job.
Yeah, agreed. In the sake of expediency, that'll be the last word on that. Noel128, wake up! 2 exclamation marks, had to do it. Corey, I read your article on Charlie. Great job. I graduated and played at Thomas County Central, Charlie's alma mater. Players like Charlie just don't seem to come around anymore. He's never forgotten where he came from. With that said, I know I'm biased, but is Charlie the greatest quarterback to never play in the NFL? And how would you compare him to Kyler Murray? Thanks, Corey and Aslan.
Well, thanks. I appreciate the shout-out of the column. Kyler Murray's faster. I think they have similar builds. Kyler Murray's crazy fast. Charlie wasn't like a 4.4 guy. He was just really quick and elusive. And you know what he did that we lamented, say 20 years later, when a guy was coming from his backside to sack him, my man had a spin move.
Yeah.
And got out of the way. It wasn't the EJ spin move where you turn a 4-yard sack into a 14-yard sack and sometimes you fumble. It wasn't that. It was a legit spin move where he'd spin out, and go make a play downfield. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good comparison though. Murray and Charlie Ward. They're so calm, and they're both really good passers. I would say, can you think of another quarterback that
greatest
did
quarterback
play down in the NFL that would be better than Charlie Ward?
My goodness.
He'd have to be there, right? Like all the other ones at least get a shot.
What about Timmy Chang? Did Timmy Chang ever get a shot?
I mean, good point. Checkmate. I wasn't thinking about Timmy Chang.
Graham Harrell. He's got to be it.
Sure.
Yeah. Actually, and then there's somebody yelling right now so loud. No, what about this guy?
Because I think Charlie's it.
He's got to be.
I think Charlie's it, man. He
greatest
was
quarterback
incredible.
to never play in the NFL.
And by the way, you know how Mahomes is getting all the love for that no-look pass he threw the other day?
Yeah.
I saw Charlie do that in a game. The 1992 game, Clemson, I was there. You know how Florida State, when they were in the shotgun, and the tailback would always just roll straight to the left in the flat?
Yeah.
So Charlie's looking down, and this is his second game he's ever played, by the way. And he's the first road game he's ever played. And he's already thrown like 6 interceptions in 6 quarters. But my dude still had so much confidence that he's looking downfield in the middle of the field, and without turning his head, he throws it to his left. So I think probably Tiger McMillan. Now, as you can imagine, Tiger McMillan wasn't ready for a no-look pass, and it sailed right over his helmet and out of bounds. But he still had the audacity to throw a no-look pass in a football game. So that was pretty cool. So Mahomes wasn't the first time I've seen a quarterback do it. It was was a little more successful. But Charlie, man, think about the dude. He played quarterback for 2 years, won a national championship, and then was the starting point guard for 4 years, and went to 3 NCAA tournaments and Elite Eight. Played in the league, played in the NBA for 10 years, and that was his second best sport. Like, he was just pretty good at basketball at Florida State. You wouldn't have thought he was going to be a 10-year NBA guy. You wouldn't have thought he had a longer career than Bob Sura. But, man, he was so good at football. He was so good at football. I mean, seriously, he was such a good athlete that his second best sport is the one that he played 10 years professionally in. Anyway, and there was always the joke when he was with the Knicks that he was the best quarterback in New York at the time.
Do you think if Charlie played now today? Actually, no, because the money is just stupid in the NBA. It's just stupid.
Yeah, but he wasn't such a great shooter that I don't know if he would have gotten a chance in this day and age. He probably would have because he was still a great athlete.
Less that, but more the fact that the NFL is embracing college principles, college concepts when it comes to offense, wide open things. I mean, 1993, I don't know how many African-American quarterbacks there were in the NFL. I mean, it was still like Randall Cunningham, Warren Moon.
Yeah, there weren't many.
Or at least
not even prevalent now.
Not even so much African-American quarterbacks, but just quarterbacks that didn't solely rely on being in the pocket and picking people off.
Statues.
Yeah.
He certainly wasn't one of them. That's always one of the great unknowns is what he would have been like in the NFL. I think he would have been. He might have been a little ahead of his time. Like the teams weren't in the shotgun back then in the NFL much. They were still trying to run it 40 times a game. But I just imagine if he would have succeeded. I mean, again, basketball was his second best sport, and he managed to have a 10-year NBA career and make bukus of money. I have to imagine he would have been able to rise the level of the competition in the NFL too. And he punted as a freshman.
He did.
Yeah, pretty remarkable career for that guy.
Not as good as Randall Cunningham, though.
No, was not as good a punter as Randall Cunningham, but he's a better basketball player.
Boom. Noel Tender wanted to simply say you guys are a great show to sleep to. All kidding aside, I will turn it on, fall back to sleep, then wake for coffee, and try to figure where I left off. Much help, actually. Thanks. Love what you do. By the way, there wasn't one single comma in that entire graph, but I somehow navigated through it. I can read words. Just the numbers are what's getting me, Corey. The numbers is what's getting me.
I understand. Do you fall asleep to podcasts?
I used to fall asleep to Tuesdays with Corey when you used to do your interviews. Like your
that's
yeah.
nice.
You know, it's kind of like, it's very
That's
relaxing.
crazy. So I just looked it up. Charlie Ward did play 11 years.
Yeah. What's going on over there? Your microphone sounds weird. Are you leaning back?
Oh, you can't hear me?
Oh, there you go. You're back.
How about now? You good now?
Better. Yeah, you're a little muffled. You're a little muffled there.
Charlie never averaged more than 8.7 points a game.
And he survived for 10 years?
Or more than 5.7 assists.
And he made a living doing that for 10 years?
Isn't that crazy?
That's amazing. Good for him.
Well, I say he was a 40% three-point shooter. No, he wasn't. He was a 36% three-point shooter, which isn't terrible.
Which is 40% back then, right?
Yeah, for sure. A 77% free throw shooter. I mean, he was solid. He just wasn't incredible. That's why I always hoped he would have given football a try, because he was special in football.
Yeah. Maxwell Gibbs dashing.
By the way, I'm pretty sure Maxwell Gibbs asked the question on headlines.
No, he cheated on me?
I'm saying, man, it was a Maxwell from New York. Jeff doesn't read the second names. So all I know is it was a Maxwell from New York. So I'm just saying, yeah, it sounds like he's veered off to another podcast, which I like because it's mine. I'm on it too, but I know that's gotta hurt you a little bit.
Hurts. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna read his question. Next question, rookie baby. Hi guys. I'm just kidding. All right. Maxwell says, dashing through the snow in a one horse open sleigh. I can't even read words. Try to read. Is that Jingle Bells? That is Jingle Bells. I'm terrible. Gentlemen, I was present on Saturday evening in Newark to witness the basketball game. Couple of observations. 1, Kabengele is going to be a good NBA player. 2, when Kofor comes back, this team is going to be scary deep. 3, it does concern me that we let UConn hang around. There were multiple opportunities to step on their throat, but failed to do so. What was the best Christmas gift you received as a kid? For me, Maxwell Gibbs, it was when I was 8 years old. FSU was playing Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl for the BCS title, and my father gave me a bowl that had 2 oranges in it.
Man. Didn't see that coming.
After opening it, I was baffled. My dad then says to say out loud each item, and I say, Dad, it's just an orange bowl. Sure enough, that was his way of saying he and I were going to the game. It's a really nice story awesome. Until you remember how the game went. And then Brett Cimarelli, takes out, a 3-square-foot piece of sod, can't make a field goal.
Snoop's not even playing. He scored 2 points.
Mark Rick's thinking about the 40-watt club and the nightlife in Athens that awaits.
Mark Rick during the game was listening to REM. Like he wasn't even – the headphones were just playing REM. Yeah. He wasn't calling plays. Yeah, the game itself was a disaster, but hey, that's a really neat moment. That's a cool present for a kid.
That's fantastic.
I don't know mine. I think mine would have been my parents got me a basketball goal.
Oh, nice.
Just out of the blue. Like
portable,
I didn't ask for one. I didn't ask for a big one. Like I didn't have a big present on the list that year, and they got me a basketball goal.
Nice.
And that's why I'm the great shooter that I am today.
Glass backboard or fiberglass backboard?
No, fiberglass.
Okay.
And it did eventually fall down.
Was it portable?
Actually, a buddy of mine in high school, I had it for probably 8 years. A buddy of mine in high school was shooting a layup. It hit the backboard, and then the backboard and half of the pole came down and swung on him. Swung down on him, and it almost really hurt him. Yeah. But it didn't, so he lived to tell the tale.
What was my best Christmas gift? I don't know. Since we're not, my tribe doesn't follow the customs. We didn't really celebrate Christmas a lot. We did for a few years, so my parents did it just so we didn't feel left out. I got one of those cool remote control cars, but it was called the Typhoon. So it was like a hovercraft. It actually had this inflatable donut on the bottom of it, so I could actually put it on the ponds in our neighborhood. But I was so afraid that it said not to let it go more than 50 yards away from the controller. I was so afraid I'd get stuck in the middle of the water and an alligator would eat it that I rarely took it out in the water. And then I think I stopped using it after 2 weeks because I have ADD and I'm an ungrateful kid.
Right. Yeah. That's the thing with those Christmas presents, man, is the kids like them for a while and then they forget they have them. Brady has a whole room of toys that he hasn't played with in years because he's got to go play Fortnite.
Yeah. Fortnite. Jeez. By the way, the 2000 game bothers me exponentially more than 98.
Yeah, I can see that.
Thought I'd put that out there.
Yeah, I can see that. 98, your backup quarterback's playing. Tennessee was really good. You did score some points. But the thing about the 98 game, though, is, man, get Peter Warrick some touches. What are you doing? Especially with a backup quarterback. Why is Peter Warrick touching the ball once the entire game? Anyway.
Rookie Baby. Welcome back. It's been a while, I think. Hi, guys. You are both awesome. Continue to do great work. Thank you.
I like those comments. Keep those coming.
Awesome. Seriously. It's weird. I'll hear.
We do appreciate all the love and support.
Like, I'll hear Cameron.
I know I sound sarcastic. I'm not being sarcastic. I really do appreciate it.
I was driving around a lot this past week because I'm having to go buy gifts and everything. And so I was getting to hear a lot of Cameron, some headlines. And like Cameron will do the same thing. Like Cameron will read a question and he'll be like, "Thank you so much. Love your work, Jeff." And he's like, "Thank you." And I'm like, you don't sound very appreciative, Jeff. But I'm like, that's exactly how I sound probably when I'm reading these questions too. But it's genuine. It's sincere. It's awesome. People listen to the show. It's cool.
They really do. And you know what? People do listen to this show. So if you haven't owned a business, sponsor this show. We get a lot of listeners.
10,000 on the bottom end average.
We have 40-something thousand a week.
Yeah.
This is big time, baby. This is big time stuff.
Like over 2,000 people listen to this on YouTube, which means like if you're listening to this on YouTube, you're either sitting at your desk planted.
That's got to be it, right? You're at your work and you've got your headphones in.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you're a business, they're planted sitting there listening for 45 minutes, not moving. Or if they're listening on their mobile device, if you're listening to YouTube on a mobile device, you can't multitask. Like you can't text or you can't tweet because YouTube, at least on an Android device, YouTube will cut off. So it's like they have your undivided attention.
Yeah, hey, keep doing that. You need to listen to us with your undivided attention. You certainly don't need to fall asleep to us.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, Noel Tender.
Wake up. Don't go to sleep. Wake up. That was for the last guy who was trying to fall asleep to this podcast.
Yeah. All right. With the Walt Bell situation, it seems like they did not mesh well, and maybe he was not the best fit. But I find it interesting that he hasn't stayed in any spot for longer than 2 years. Walt has left almost every place after 1 year of work and for a higher position. You maybe just answered your own question there. Could that scenario and this scenario simply be that Walt Bell was trying to be a head coach as quickly as possible?
Sure, but I don't think when he took the job last January that he thought his next job would be at UMass.
Agreed.
That's all. But yes, and that's how it normally is with a coach in this profession. It's always, you look at him, it's a 2-year stop here, a 2-year stop there, a 2-year stop. I mean, look at Tim Brewster, for heaven's sake. That guy bounces around more than a ping pong ball.
Hey-o.
But that's the job, and especially when you're young and you keep, you're upwardly mobile like he is. That comes with the territory. I think when he took the job, he probably thought he'd be at Florida State for 3 years and then be a head coach at a Power 5 school, not at UMass, who's an independent, which is crazy that they're an independent. But I don't think it was him just always having to get in the itch to move on. I think it didn't work here. He might have been told, "Hey, it hasn't worked here. This isn't working. You need to look somewhere else." I kind of don't see that because there still hasn't been an OC named. But that could be a possibility. But also, he's like, this might be my only chance to get a head coaching job. And if you win at UMass, say you go 7-4, 2 years at UMass, maybe when Adazio retires, you got a chance at the BC job. Who knows?
Do you think the day before spring practice, if they, have Willie do a press conference like he did last year, or like the next time we talk to Willie,
right?
And
it might be next week, my man, with signing day.
Oh, that's true. Very good point.
We didn't do it last year, I don't think, but I think this year they might.
Is there any way you can phrase the question to not get the truth? And I'm not saying that as a knock on Willie, just, no coach is going to let you know exactly what they're thinking. But, do you think there'll be any hints? We can get any sort of idea of what did happen?
I think if I was going to ask him a question, and we get him next Wednesday, I will. I would say, look, I know we haven't been able to talk to you since it all happened. Were you blindsided by Walt Bell leaving?
Blindside is such a strong word about surprise.
But I think that's a fair question. Or were you surprised that he left? Yeah. Were you expecting it? Because I think we'd be able to know within that answer the truth.
Yeah.
I don't think he would say I fired him, but I think he would say, well, yeah, I thought that it might be a possibility, or I thought it was a really good possibility that he might be going, or no, I was kind of stunned. How did you find out? I was stunned. I was on the road. He called me and said he had this opportunity. That's how I would ask it, in a way that we could glean something from it.
Yeah. He's had some time, obviously, to cool off. But, I mean, again, he was a little bit perturbed when Bailey Hockman left him. So,
Well, yeah, I would be too.
Yeah.
Dude could have played this year.
All right. Deester. Maybe I'll listen to one of these one day. LOL. Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, listen to the show. He had no question, no comment, or her. Just
yeah, but if he's not listening, then who are you talking to right now?
That's true. That's true. Look at you, Corey. Gosh, man.
I'm just saying, you're talking into the wind. If any of y'all know Deester, tell him to listen.
Wake up!
Or at least quit posting in the thread that if he's not listening.
Yeah. 8-Bit Noel. LOL, Aslan. Nice intro song to wake up on Wednesday. We keep on waiting is right. I played a little John Mayer.
Cool. All right. Good.
Keep on
you're always good with the music. My Shanna, the ex-wife.
Yes.
Always a big Florida State fan, a big fan of yours. I think it was her. Maybe it was one of my other ex-wives. Told me to tell you that you do a real good job with the music.
All right.
She likes your musical choices.
We all need redeeming qualities, Corey. You
finally got one.
Redeeming
that and the Christmas tree. You did a really good job with that.
I think. Well, that's
Are we almost done?
Mainly Kristen. We're literally one more.
Okay.
See, luckily Deester and then Sean 7711 didn't have questions. They just had posts. So I'm like, oh gosh. Let's go to the clock real quick. Oh, well, it's only an hour and 15. You're getting soft
that's
on
a
me,
lot,
Corey.
man. That's a
You're
lot.
Soft. All right,
for no OC being named. What are we going to do when an OC is finally named? Is that going to be a 4-hour marathon?
I'm just going to say who it is. I'm going to let you give your opinion, and that's going to be it. I'm not going to offer any opinion.
Oh, okay. That's fair. I can live with that.
Okay. 8-Bit Noel. So I'm listening to Wednesday's show, and I think it's a bit unfair to say that Willie giving the offense over to a new offensive coordinator is desperate and that somehow that's a bad thing. If he were making no changes or minimal changes, the outrage would be far worse after what happened this year. Willie is in a no-win situation until we play some more games. But I, for one, am happy to see that he is willing to make big changes following a disastrous year. Aslan, your boy Jimbo wasn't willing to do that. What say you to that? I enjoy the show, guys. Keep it rolling. Well,
you read
Jimbo,
that well. You read that as if you actually asked the question.
Jimbo did make big changes following a disastrous year. He left.
He did?
He's gone. He left.
That's right.
He left
He
everybody.
took up and went to College Station. That was a
got
huge change.
He's like,
you
my
couldn't
bad.
make a bigger change.
My bad. I almost ruined the streaks for everybody. I'm not the right guy. I'm going to leave and let you guys get this figured out. Selfless move.
Yeah, totally, 100%. Yeah, the thing with, I'm not saying it is desperate, but it could look desperate. But you're 100% right, 8-Bit. You can't win either way, right? Like if he'd have stood pat, you'd have been like, well, what are you doing here, man? You didn't make any changes at all to your offense at all when you just had the worst one in the country. But then when you go completely against grain and do a complete about face, it looks like, okay, well, you didn't believe in what you were doing last year. But, hey, you probably shouldn't believe in what you did last year because last year was disgusting. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, I guess you can't win with Corey Clark because I do think he should have made changes. I said it after the Florida game on headlines. I was like, man, everything should be on the table. New coordinators, new everything. The way he practices, when they practice, all that should be on the table when you have a season that bad. And, yeah, so him deciding, apparently, we don't know the details yet of the particulars or even who the OC is, but he has apparently decided that he will let somebody else run this offense. They will have complete autonomy to an extent, right? I mean, he still gets to decide to go for it on fourth down or hey, give me a reverse like Bowden used to. But for the most part, they'll have autonomy. For him to do that in 1 year, sure says that he's willing to change, which is a good thing most of the time. But also the counterpoint, because there's always a counterpoint, is okay. Well, did you not believe in yourself and your system? Was that false? Was that false confidence? Do you not believe? You either believe in your offense and what you do, or you don't. In one bad year, all of a sudden you're willing to change everything. So anyway, like you said, you can't win. because I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth. I don't know what the right thing is. I think if they get Kendall Briles and they score 40 points a game next year, we'll all be happy.
Well, the problem is that we're a Florida State-centric show, so we don't want to be too overly critical and hurt people's feelings. I mean, I have one sort of belief of what's going on, but it's a theory. It's not a proven fact. I don't think it's I think maybe it did say desperate. I just think
I might have. I think that might have come out that it could look.
Here's
desperate.
The thing. This is a drastic change. It's a drastic change from a guy who's supremely confident in his ability to call plays that now, I mean, not even so much that he's going to give things up, but like the university is, I don't want to say clearly, but it looks fairly apparent that they're hunting bigger fish this time than they ever have been. I mean, they brought Hugh Freeze was on campus in Tallahassee at Florida State. Not to talk about, I don't know, the circus. All right? I mean, they were going after a guy of that, quote, caliber. Kendall Briles is making $700,000 at his alma mater. Potentially, if he comes, he's going to, I mean, they're making concessions. There's money being thrown around that, desperation is not the right word, and this isn't a good word either, but maybe something mildly below the word panic. They're not standing pat. There isn't trust in the process occurring right now. It seems like it doesn't. I'm sorry. For me, it doesn't feel that way. I don't sense the sort of all right. Let's assess and where are we after 5 and 7. I think it's just we're a few players away. This feels like all right. We still believe in you, Willie. Again, to my thought, my belief. But let's get this thing fixed in the short term. Your forte is getting these things fixed long term. It took you 2-3 years to get these things going at your other stops, really closer to 3 to 4 years to get these things rolling. You can get that done with the way you recruit. You're able to connect really well to young people, and you have a really good eye for talent. Let's let you do and figure that out. But in the interim, we got a really lousy home schedule coming up in 19. And if we go another bad turn, this thing will be a lot harder to get fixed, and then you have a lot less options to work with. So let's give you what you need now. Let's get this figured out, and then we'll cross the next bridge when we get there. So desperation is probably a bad word, but it's a concern. I think there is I don't want to say grave concern, but there's a good amount of concern with high-level decision makers within this university that they got to get this thing, quote, fixed now. And they're going to great lengths talking to a guy like Hugh Freeze, going to Jacksonville and talking with Ed Burr, a Board of Trustees guy, to get a Kendall Briles, a guy who's got the stink of Baylor associated to him. I mean, there's a lot of collateral damage involved in the guys they're going after. They realize that. Maybe they ultimately won't go that direction, but right now, from what we've been hearing, what the source have been telling the guys who run the ship at War Chant, they're going after guys that bring a lot of cachet, good and bad, so that this is not a relax, let's just stand pat. They need to make a big splash.
Yeah, and, again, even if it is desperate, well, desperate times and desperate measures and all that, I mean, you just went 5 and 7, and it was an awful thing to watch. Nothing was pretty about it at all. Nothing was good. And you led the nation in penalties, and you were one of the worst offenses of all time with one of the worst lines. Like, there's so much, to call it desperate, I don't even know if that's a negative. I mean, it is. For Willie Taggart's career, he can't have another year like that. And I'm not just talking about the record-wise. He can't have another year where his product looks like that, because there will probably not be a year 3 if year 2 looks like year 1. Whether they go 6 and 6 or 4 and 8 or somewhere in between, man, if you look like that, just completely incompetent a lot of the time, with the crazy penalties and the calling timeouts with not enough people on the field and your special teams debacles, man, you might be bounced. It'll cost Florida State a lot of money, but that's why they want to get this fixed. And so, yeah, man, calling it desperate, I don't necessarily mean – I don't think it's a pejorative. I think it's Florida State, man. You can't afford another year like this. This will be 3 years in a row where you're out of the playoff race. Well, 4 years in a row where you're not even a contender in the playoffs by the second week of September. That's just not good enough here. So I get it. I get why he would want to – and again, it's not a negative. He might – he might have looked in the mirror and said, this didn't work. I've got to try something else. He might have been told to try something else. But either way, I don't have a problem with him trying something else. It's just, again, when you think about the guy that was hired and how confident he was last December about what he was going to bring, and now all of a sudden it's a completely different script that you're apparently reading off of. But it might be a better script. It might be the thing he's supposed to do, and we might look at this thing 10 years from now and say, Willie Taggart turned this thing around in December of 2018 when he made this hire, or he brought in this quarterback, whatever it ends up being. We might look back at this month and say that's when it changed. That's when his legacy was secure. That's the point where it all like with Dabo almost getting fired in 2010.
Yeah.
And then bringing in great coordinators. But there's that point of origin and, Florida State's rebirth, like a phoenix, Aslan, like a phoenix rising from the ashes. That point of origin, that origin story might be December 2018. Are we done?
We are done. Most likely for the week, we're on call. If a hire is made between the time we record this and by the time you guys and gals are getting out of work on Friday, or actually I shouldn't say out of work on Friday, but getting up to wake up, we will let you know. And actually, I will tell you who it is. Corey will offer his thoughts on it, and I won't say anything otherwise. But in any event, though, we'll have something for you to listen to on Friday for sure. I'll have Michael Langston lined up to give you the latest on the upcoming recruiting weekend. It's going to be a big one, and where things kind of go from there. For Corey, I'm Aslan. Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great one.
WarChant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. WarChant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WarChant30. That's WarChant30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WarChant30. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.